in terms of this bracket, that's clearly the best match that you could have.
Is there anyone in Optic you're kind of leaning toward or keeping your eye on as someone who needs to kind of stand up and be, that guy?
I do feel right now is the best opportunity for Optic to actually get to a final.
Welcome to Reverse Sweeps Preview Show, presented by USAA Insurance. I'm your host, Katie Bedford, joined by Pacman, and only Pacman because we kicked Ian to the curb. He's still flying back from Dallas, so unfortunately he'll be with us in our hearts, but not on the couch. Let's take a look at the final standings before Champs, guys. How did it all play out? Well, Minnesota, with their win in Major 5, Pacman, have bumped themselves into the top 6, which means they're starting in winner's bracket. Seattle, London, Gorillas, Paris, we knew for some time that they did not have an opportunity. They would not be at Champs. And let's look at the bracket. Now that Minnesota was able to make that play, get themselves into that top 6, well, it's gonna be Optic and Subliners going head to head, Empire and Rocker in the winner round 1s. I myself keeping my eye on Optic and Subliners, I think. I'm curious to know how Subliners are gonna do, but Mutineers and Thieves will be waiting for whoever drops down from those matches. So, looking at this bracket, Pacman, do you expect anything too wild from these opening matches? Or do you, my knee-jerk reaction would be to say Optic's gonna win, Empire's gonna win. But I feel like that's so disrespectful to Rocker at this point.
Right, that's the thing. So, well, my first thing is I really struggle to see a world where Subliners beat Optic in their current form.
Yeah.
Right? But, I mean, scary things do tend to happen at Champs. But New York just don't look the greatest. If this was the old New York, I don't know, then this would be a really crazy match to predict. But for that one, I have to lean towards Optic. And then Empire Rocker.
That's a big match.
It's crazy because I'm supposed to just say Rocker, I think. Right? But if you told me Empire's gonna win, I'd be like, okay. Like, the Rocker of this past weekend, I mean, they just shouldn't lose to anyone, I guess.
Right.
But a strong Empire can also beat anyone.
Right.
And that match is really crazy to me. And I mean, that's what Champs really does give you. It just gives you banger after banger of the match. And my gut says go with Rocker, but I just don't know. It's a tough one to call, really.
No, I have to agree with you. I think when I look at Optic New York, I feel like it depends more on Optic being demoralized because they got 3rd at the major, and maybe just, I'm just saying hypothetically, I feel like it needs to be more on kind of them getting down on themselves more than New York kind of having a big chance to win.
I mean, I get that side of it too, but you also have to remember that Optic is going to be playing in front of the crowd, and the crowd should be at their highest point when it comes to how they feel about their Optic team.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best Optic has done, and they only lost to Ultra, and they're not playing Ultra, so it should be, it should be a pretty good match, and it should go towards Optic's favor.
Well, if it goes toward Optic's favor, that means winners round 2, they will face off against Atlanta FaZe. Will be the matchup for either of those teams. Empire Rocker, they'll face off against Toronto Ultra. So FaZe, they get O2'd, really just about the worst performance you could ask for at Major 5. Are you concerned about them back on LAN or no?
No, not at all. Their poor performance has probably very little to do with LAN. More so them not being on the same page. You're talking about guys that literally just won championship on LAN, have a world championship on LAN, won back-to-back from playoffs to champs on LAN. Saying they're onliners is, or being worried about them on LAN is ridiculous, and almost not even ready to entertain that. That's just a silly thought.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think maybe, I do believe it did get to them a little bit in Major 5. I think there's a lot of other circumstances that played more of a role, but I do think it did get to them a bit. But no, I have to agree. I'm not overly concerned with them on the LAN aspect. I'm more concerned, or crowd rather, I'm more concerned with them in terms of teamwork and cohesiveness, because we've seen from these FaZe players before that sometimes they kind of just start to ego chow. They kind of just start to do their own thing, and they forget to work as a unit.
Yeah, that's the more worrying thing, and that has nothing to do with LAN. That's your ability and your chemistry as a unit. That's what makes a team that has that much talent lose. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a team that has now, what, I believe 7 losses on the entire season, which is ridiculous. And it's just this team, when they are firing on all cylinders, is the best team. LAN, online, it doesn't matter. I'm not really sure if Krim said they were onliners or if he did, but if he did, it was probably as a joke. They literally just won online champs, and his team just had an awful performance.
I think he's self-aware enough in that
Yes,
regard.
he's self-aware enough to know that that's BS and to know that these guys won champs online. Like I don't know the context in which it was said, but I'm pretty sure he's messing around or somebody asked him a stupid question. Like whatever it is, either way, I'm sure in his heart he does not truly believe that. And he may have even said that if he did to try to get under their skin, because that's definitely the biggest competition going forward to champs.
So do you think FaZe needs to win champs?
In what context?
Legacy, potential dynasty building, the cohesiveness of the team as a group of 4. Do you think they need this?
In the only sense that FaZe needs to win this is so they don't question whether or not they want to stay together in the offseason. I feel like if they come out and have another poor performance, let's say they get 8th, not only does that extremely hurt your legacy, now you've had back-to-back horrid performances, and it's hard to stay together after that. But let's say they get 2nd, 3rd, whatever it may be, their legacies are fine.
Yeah.
Like, they're still a tremendous team. They should stick together.
You still won 3 majors, you won 4 grand finals.
You still have had an amazing season. The problem with that is, no matter how amazing your season is, if you bomb out at champs, it's impossible to want to stick together. It just leaves such a bad taste in your mouth.
All those wins mean nothing at that point,
So I don't think that it really affects them too bad as long as they don't get last or destroyed. Like, just play like FaZe does, and if FaZe happens to lose, then it is what it is. Like, had they lost that major to Dallas, you wouldn't be asking me this, right?
That's true, yeah.
It would have just been a loss, and it's like, what do they need to do to get back? But not, are they going to stick together? Does it affect their legacy? No, you just need to come out and compete and do your best, and I think that FaZe will be fine.
A reminder, Reverse Sweep is presented by USAA Insurance. They make it easy to insure your stuff like rigs and gear, and they have your back. Eligibility restrictions apply. Insurance provided by United Services Automobile Association and its affiliates, San Antonio, Texas. Let's talk about a Texas team, Dallas Empire. They had a bit of a quiet exit in Major 5. They were 2 rounds away from winning the 4th major. Didn't look quite a strong Major 5. Do you think that it's their time to shine at champs? What are you anticipating from Dallas, from Krim, Shotzzy, Illy, and Vivid?
Well, they were my favorite to go in to win stage 5, and they didn't do it. Can they do it? Of course, right? Of course. If this past major taught us anything, any one of these top teams on the same page can look extremely scary. Another positive for them in terms of winning the whole thing is they play Rocker first round. Now, normally that doesn't mean much, but since Rocker's coming off such an amazing win where they beat all the top teams, they should be a team that everyone wants to beat. If you beat that team in the first round, that should give your team that confidence.
Right.
Confidence is the most important thing. And of course, Dallas has all the potential in the world. They have all the talent in the world. Best player of all time. And Shotzzy, who could be the best player in the world, of course they can do it. Will they do it? Who knows? They have a tough road because even if they beat Rocker, they have to go right up against Ultra, and that's always a tough match.
Well, and something that you've mentioned before too is kind of keeping your eye on Shotzzy, right? Like, you have such high expectations for him. You need that person to step onto that pedestal. I don't like to use pedestal because it can kind of be tricky, but you need him to be able to step up and meet those expectations, right?
Yeah, you do. If you're going to win the tournament, if you're actually going to be the #1 team, I can't remember the last time a team won the tournament without someone excelling.
Right.
Like, someone has to be that guy, and often for the best teams, there's multiple of them. Last weekend, it was Stanley. Like, the team all played well, but Stanley was clearly that guy, and that's what Dallas needs from Shotzzy. They need him to be the superstar for the team and then come around him and all play well, of course, because you can't win with one person, but you need that guy to be amazing, and Shotzi's that person. I think if the team comes together and starts playing well like they did in stage 4, he can do it. He just needs the teamwork to be there.
Well, he needs the teamwork, and OpTic, they're going to need the teamwork too, guys, because this is their last chance in the season to get higher now than top 3. They were top 4, so on, top 3. Can they get to the grand final? Can they get there at champs, Pacman? Can they finally do it this season?
I actually do think they can do it, and I think that this is a a solid time and a solid road for them, right? So you play a subliner team that's not the greatest currently.
That's a really nice
That's a
winners
great,
round one.
in terms of this bracket, that's clearly the best match that you could have, right? To play this subliners team in the first round. And then you get to play FaZe, who's also at the weakest point that we've seen them. Now, we don't know if we're going to get that FaZe again, but if ever there was a time for you to play FaZe, it's one, you beat them most recently, and two, they're on a downswing. So that bodes well for them in the future, right? And that bodes well for them in terms of making it to the final. Then they're in a winner's final. You're right there. Like, who knows if they win that match? But at least it gives them that hope. And I do feel right now is the best opportunity for Optic to actually get to a final. Whether they win it or not, who knows, especially with how crazy things are looking this season. But as far as their road goes, it could be a lot worse. Like, you just have to come out and do what you've been doing.
Is there anyone on Optic that you're kind of, maybe in the way we talked about Shotzzy, is there anyone on Optic you're kind of leaning toward or keeping your eye on as someone who needs to kind of stand up and be, that guy?
Yeah, it's FormaL actually, because I'm not looking for him to be the best player on the team, but when they struggle, he seems to not play that well. Like against Ultra, he really got shut down. He really got shut down in those hard points.
That, yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy because FormaL is one of those players that's always been historically the guy that takes over. He's historically just gross. He's the one that, when it gets to the finals and gets to those tougher matches, he's the one that gets Optic over that hump. And lately it's been Scump and Envoy. And FormaL just needs to be that guy to get back to that level where he's consistently doing that against the other top teams. And if he does that, when they come up against FaZe, they can win. I'm really looking to him to be that guy. And he definitely has all the potential in the world. He's one of the best FPS players of all time. Multiple title champion. He's really talented. He just needs to keep it together against those top teams.
Yeah, I think FormaL is definitely an important one. And guys, if you have thoughts on Optic, we'd love to hear them, what you expect out of them at Champs. So yeah, I expect a top showing from them. I don't expect them to win. I expect them to be in the final days of the tournament, to be sure. And I think if it's anything less than that, I'd probably be disappointed in that performance. But guys, let's take a look at the Majors Unsung Heroes and what we can expect from them at Champs with Got You Covered, presented by USAA Insurance. Level up your gear protection with USAA Insurance. So anyone that you're keeping your eye on, teams, players, the one to watch for you as we get to penultimate tournament champs.
I'm gonna look at Kenny from LA Thieves. If they're gonna be a team that makes a losers bracket run, he's gonna have to be one of the best players in the tournament, if not the best. Draza's really solid, really good, and Slasher played a lot better on land, but Kenny, at the end of the day, is the team's most consistent player and the superstar, and he and Austin have already done an incredible run at Champs before in Black Ops 4. They know what it takes. The difference now is that there's no room to slip up. You don't have that first match to warm up. You don't have any time, because they started that Champs performance when that happened really poorly. And that's why they had to bounce back. They don't have that cushion. And I'm really looking to Kenny to be that guy to get them out of the gate quickly. Make sure they're on the same page right away, and make sure that they're winning those Game 5 S&Ds that you're gonna need to win to make that kind of losers bracket run.
I like that. I feel like my inclination is to lean toward FaZe and Arcities in particular, but I think I have to go with Attach in Minnesota because they had such an incredible major. I want to see them keep up that momentum, but I want to see Attach and kind of his guidance and leadership for someone like Standy too. Like, Attach has been around and been a great player for a really, really long time. I want to see what he can impart onto Standy, because there's a lot of pressure as a rookie like that going into Champs. You've just won a major, you're in running for Rookie of the Year, everyone's lauding you, everyone's tweeting about you, which is awesome, but also a ton of pressure. So I'm definitely, I think, keeping my eye on Attach to see what he can do with his team and what kind of momentum maybe Minnesota as a whole can have, because the last thing I want is for them to have some sort of a fade like they did earlier in the year when they came out so hot when they originally got Standy.
Yeah, that's a really good one, Katie. I like that one. And and Attach also has to be, this whole tournament he played fantastic. I think he was the only player actually that ended up positive in the finals too for the team. And if they're gonna do it, it's gonna be a lot on his shoulders as well. You're right, to go back to back, and he does have a Champs ring himself too. So
Yeah, he knows how to be able to go all the way. So see what wisdom he can impart. Let's talk about bold predictions. I just throw a dart and sometimes I hit my mark. So Major 5, I said that Seattle was gonna get here. See, Ian's not here to gloat, so I can just take my moment to myself. I said Seattle was gonna bow out in losers round 4, and that's what happened. But what do you think? Bold predictions for champs as we have the bracket pulled up for us.
I'm assuming that the top will flip to the bottom, so I'm gonna say that I'm gonna give LA Thieves a run. I think that LA Thieves is gonna get all the way to your losers finals, upsetting at least 2 top teams along the way. I think
like that.
So it's impossible to know which teams are gonna fall, but there's so much pressure at champs, and by that time LA Thieves will be on a little bit of a run, and there's gonna be some upset teams from winners just down on themselves, and I think that we're gonna see LA Thieves' best performance in 2 years at this champs.
I think New York is gonna beat Optic and then lose to FaZe. But then I think that they're gonna win losers round 2 and bow out in losers round 3.
Okay, so you have New York upsetting Optic essentially.
Yes, upsetting Optic,
and then
being able to
beating
get the
whoever they
losers
beat,
round 2,
beating
but then
whoever they get
losing.
to. Okay.
Yeah, losing losers round 3, presumably.
Fair enough.
To maybe Thieves then.
That's a good point. All right, that could work.
But really, okay, the bold prediction, maybe I think they're gonna upset Optic. Who knows?
That's pretty bold.
I was looking at it, I was like,
with the
I
way
don't
they've
know.
been playing, I think that's fair.
I don't know. It's kind of hard. It's hard when you don't have all the teams here, because your options for bold predictions become a little trickier when it's, you know, the top 8.
That's true. And the format, it's like it's just a couple matches and they're in the finals. Like it's tough to make some bold predictions.
Yeah,
You're right.
but I'll say that, guys. I'm sorry to the Optic fans. I think New York might be able to do it. Also, I like Asim. Maybe hope they could get an upset here or there. But let's talk about the format. It's a little different this year. We only have the top 8 teams going to champs. And there's already teams starting in losers. So Pacman, I know there's a lot of things people don't like, but the thing people have been talking about the most is that the bottom 4 teams, Paris, London, Seattle, and Gorillas, will not be in attendance. So what do you think about that? And do you think there's anything more important that matters beyond just those 4 teams?
My bigger issue really is not that the 4 teams won't be there. It's that once you have qualified for champs, all 8 teams should be on equal footing. There should be no teams in losers bracket. That makes no sense. And there should also be no buys. You are now at the finals. At the end of the day, it's still video games. You guys need to play some sort of group method or something where it gives us more of a full story to tell. Even though Atlanta and Toronto have had great overall seasons, they should not be ahead in the bracket. LA Thieves and Florida should not start in losers bracket. These guys have all competed this whole season to get to this point. This is your final and should be played out on a fair and equal playing field. The whole winners bracket berth, to me, it's kind of crazy that in the past our most storied events are these championship finals. And I know that we've moved to a different format, but it's where you hear so many stories. You hear so many like legendary tales, legendary runs, and to have it start with a couple teams and winners where they win a couple matches and essentially they could play 2 total teams.
Right.
Like 3 matches, yes, but say FaZe and Ultra meet in winners finals and they meet in losers and then meet in grand finals. That means one of those 2 teams would have beaten 2 teams in this league in order to
The road
win.
is too short.
Right, it's not telling enough of a story, and that to me is the biggest issue. Not the 4 teams not being there, it's those teams starting in losers and us not having a full scope of what it means to win something this big. In other esports, it's often like a Swiss groups thing where you play each other back to back to back to back and maybe a shorter series, but you play more series to prove that these really are the best teams at this event, at this point in the season, and to get us a true champion of the year. And that's really the bigger issue. To me, this is just another tournament. That's what it looks like, with more money at the end of it.
Well, and that would be the baseline problem, right? Is if something is making champs feel like just another tournament, that's a problem. It's the biggest tournament of the year. It's the one that everyone remembers. It's the one that everyone cares about the most. So I have to agree with that. I think more so too, I don't have as much of an issue with people starting winners round 2 as I do people being in losers. I think you should get more than just that one series as your opportunity to make a point there. I think I'm one of the people who does miss having all the teams there and the AM teams that potentially kind of make that run coming up, like the Singularities in BO4 and other teams like that. But no, I think the losers bracket, I hope maybe they take a look at how things play out this year and maybe adjust accordingly. Who knows? Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised. But as of right now, I think reservations are valid, probably.
Yeah, I mean, last year, the losers bracket made more sense because obviously the pandemic happened, and they had already planned for the bottom 4 teams last year to not be at champs. Right. But then the pandemic happened, it switched to solely online play, and to make sure that everyone was accommodated for the fact that some people got points on LAN and they didn't, they included everyone. So that losers portion made a little bit more sense, even though I still would have liked it all to be groups and winners. But this one, to me, it really doesn't. It's not fair. Every team needs to be on equal footing. And if one round bye was the worst of it, it wouldn't be bad. But the fact that some people are already close to the finals and we're down here, it doesn't make sense.
Well, let us know if you agree or disagree, if you think that the losers bracket is an issue for teams like Mutineers to be starting in. Do you think all the teams should be there? Let us know in the comments your expectations, your predictions for Champs, guys. It's right around the corner, August 19th to the 22nd. We'll see you after it's all wrapped up.